and you have to make a well-known phrase or saying, and you have 50 seconds to beat the clock starting from now. You're getting nearer, yes? Well done!
Here's the story behind the scene that caused a lot of anger and stopped the Benny Hill Show for good. The show was quickly taken off the air because of an explosive sketch. It was known for its comedy and cheeky humor. In this episode, we talk about the scene that made a lot of people angry, how the public and the media responded to it, and the dramatic choice made by the network to end the show. Get ready for a trip through the scandal that changed the history of TV. Benny Hill. The Benny Hill Show is one of the most famous and robust comedies ever shown on TV. It first aired in 1955. Under Benny Hill's direction and hostship, the show became a cultural phenomenon in the UK and other places. Hill's unique style of humor, including slapstick comedy, visual gags, and quick-fire skits, changed how TV comedies were made. Benny Hill was born Alfred Hawthorne Hill in 1924. He started his work as an entertainer by doing radio shows and then variety shows on TV. People immediately liked The Benny Hill Show because it used sketch comedy and sarcastic humor in new and exciting ways. People loved the show because it had physical comedy, controversial gags, and parody sketches that made fun of everything from pop culture to everyday life. Hill was a genius at making timeless, easy-to-understand humor by combining old-fashioned comedy with his unique style. The visually funny parts of the show were what made it stand out. Hill used various techniques such as over-the-top facial expressions, pratfalls, and clever visual gags, and often performed to fast-paced, upbeat music. This plan created a visual feast that captivated viewers, along with Hill's perfect timing and comedic skills. The show was famous for the chase scenes where Hill's character would chase other funny characters across the screen. The scenes were fast-paced and physical to keep viewers interested. You can't say enough good things about how The Benny Hill Show changed comedy on TV. It broke the rules by combining creative visuals with traditional sketch comedy, affecting a generation of comedians and TV makers. Other sketch comedy shows did well because of Hill's success, and TV generally became more open to rude and offensive humor. More than 140 countries watched to enjoy his unique brand of humor. The show was an international hit primarily because he could push the limits while still appealing to many people. The show's structure, it had running gags and characters that came back repeatedly, also set standards for future sketch comedies. Hill's ability to entertain a wide range of people by skillfully mixing comedy with social criticism showed how sketch comedy can be used in many situations. Even though The Benny Hill Show ended in controversy and viewership dropped, its impact lives on as proof of Hill's groundbreaking contributions to comedy and TV. The Benny Hill Show, a cultural phenomenon, one of the most influential comedy shows ever produced. The Benny Hill Show debuted in 1955 and is now respected in television history. Its inception dates back to the early years of British television, during which time the gifted comedian Benny Hill started to establish himself. Benny Hill, whose real name is Alfred Hawthorne Hill, became well known as a radio artist and variety act. His transition to television was logical, and the program that took his name soon rose to prominence in popular culture. The original success of the show was primarily attributed to Hill's inventive comedic style. The Benny Hill Show's early episodes mixed pre-recorded parts with live sketches, providing a range of humorous tones and styles. Hill's ability to create physical humor, his keen sense of humor, and his love of sarcasm distinguished the program from others of its like. Hill's show changed with the times, keeping its essential humorous elements while adapting to new trends in television. Over time, the show changed from a traditional variety format to a more streamlined sketch comedy approach, reflecting Hill's artistic development and the evolving television entertainment industry. The Benny Hill Show's 1959 transfer to Thames Television was one of the show's major turning points. This change signaled the start of a time of great prosperity and widespread recognition. The program gained popularity for its exuberant comedy that blended deep parodies with slapstick humor. Because of Hill's skill at developing endearing characters and sketch routines, the show became a fan favorite. His capacity to connect with a wide range of viewers, from kids to adults, contributed to the show's continued success as a cultural phenomenon. Over time, the recurrent characters and sketches from the show gained notoriety. The most well-known of these was perhaps the Hill's Angels, a group of female dancers who frequently performed in the musical and comedy sections of the program. Their lavish costumes and well-choreographed dances gave a luxurious touch to the humorous antics of the show. Another noteworthy figure was the foolish, bumbling Benny Hill, who demonstrated his acting ability by playing various characters, from a cunning detective to an endearing outlaw. With their biting criticism and irreverent humor, Hill's comedy sketches often ridiculed popular culture and cultural norms, striking a chord with viewers. In one of the most famous sketches, Hill's persona engaged in a string of witty chase scenes set to the energetic music of yakety sax. These pursuit scenes, which frequently featured a group of oddball characters, came to define Hill's humorous approach and the show. Some of the most unforgettable moments in television history, these sketches captured viewers' attention with their relentless pursuit and slapstick humor. The Benny Hill Show's influence went beyond television. It inspired similar shows and sketches and impacted a generation of comedians and television creators. Hill raised the bar for humor with his inventive use of visual humor and his ability to develop likable characters. His work opened doors for upcoming comics and helped sketch comedy become more widely recognized as a popular form of entertainment. The Benny Hill Show's legacy is a tribute to Hill's innovative contributions to comedy and television despite its eventual downfall and criticism. The program made Benny Hill a genuine television comedy star by combining sarcasm, visual gags, and slapstick humor in a way that captivated viewers worldwide. The controversial scene unveiling the issue. A sketch from the Benny Hill Show's final run was one of its most controversial. The early 1990s skit was pertinent. This was part of Hill's trend of mixing slapstick comedy with graphic and sexual themes. People were furious when a fictional patent for a product that could mimic biological systems was revealed jokingly. This sketch featured various ludicrous, over-the-top scenarios where characters mistreated the merchandise. The comedy came from visual puns and how the characters reacted to the product's impacts, such as humiliating blunders or ignorance. A character played by Benny Hill utilizes the product at a fancy supper, causing a series of hilarious mistakes. Hill's regular cast members play the dinner guests who react with extreme astonishment and fear when the product initiates a series of bizarre happenings. The sequence ends with a chaotic chase, typical of Hill's humor. When characters race to stop the substance's effects, drama and chaos ensue. The setting and time of this incident showed how society and Hill's comedy had changed. In the early 1990s, The Benny Hill Show had aired for decades. Hill was known for filthy comedy. In later seasons, Hill's comedy became more sexual and controversial. This sketch follows a larger pattern. Comedy and entertainment changed then. Comics and shows challenged humor and explored more controversial topics. Social rules changed in the early 1990s. Things that were once good or provocative became terrible or insulting. Others thought the comic was offensive because it mocked social awkwardness and body functions. This change in public opinion on the program's rising opposition and content signifies change. It was meant to be funny, but some called it rude and didn't show how comedy and characterization progress. Other sketches aroused debate. The Benny Hill Show faltered in its final years due to lower attendance and negative reviews. The program was previously lauded for its innovative comedy, but critics believed it lacked modernity. People's reactions to the sketch showed a cultural shift toward more complex and sympathetic minority comic images. It also showed how people are becoming more aware of how comedy affects societal concerns. The debate led to the closure of The Benny Hill Show. The sketch reflected the show's larger challenges as it tried to stay funny while adapting to changing cultural norms. The sketch's negative reviews showed how hard it is to keep up with comedy and entertainment. where original ideas can quickly become tedious or obnoxious. The Benny Hill Show's controversial sketch sparked public and media outrage and helped kill the show. Viewer criticism, protests, and considerable media coverage shaped and exacerbated the issue. Public outcry. The public responded quickly and fervently to the sketch. Many viewers and commentators thought using crude comedy and bodily function gags in the sketch was improper, so many became offended. Well-known Times reviewer Sarah Johnson, who was well-known, said the sketch, "a tasteless spectacle that crossed the line from humor to exploitation," reflecting the view of many others who felt the show's humor had gotten increasingly offensive. When viewers expressed their displeasure on social media and online forums, they felt wrath and letdown. "I used to love the Benny Hill Show, but this sketch is just too much," one individual remarked on a well-known forum. "It's sad to see a once great show downgraded to this lowbrow humor." The outrage transcended personal comments as viewers organized campaigns and launched petitions calling for the show to be taken off the air and boycotted. Often leading these movements, social media activists and influencers mobilized their followers against what they considered as outdated and disrespectful comedy. Demonstrators planned events outside of network headquarters and aired shows all over several locations. Despite their small scale, these little demonstrations drew media attention and exposed viewers' mounting discontent. One demonstrator told reporters outside a TV station, "We are here to demand better standards in entertainment. Our screens no longer show any space for this kind of humor." Media coverage. The media significantly impacted people's feelings about the subject. Opinion pieces and news stories offered a wide range of points of view on the issue, from harsh criticisms of the sketch itself to broader discussions on how comedy and entertainment are changing. Major newspapers and magazines like The Guardian and The Independent wrote a lot about the discussion. Benny Hill's Last Laugh: How a Sketch Ended a Legacy. An article in The Guardian went into great detail about the sketch and how it changed the show's reputation. The sketch showed that the show couldn't adapt to new cultural norms, which showed how different the show's traditional approach to comedy is from how people today expect comedy to be done. Talk shows on radio and TV also discussed the sketch between hosts and guests about what comedy can and can't do and what performers have to do. On BBC Radio 4's Media Matters, a group talked about the sketch's effects and the bigger question of comedy's place in society. Someone in the group said, "Comedy should know its limits, even if it tests them." The sketch in question has failed regarding taste and empathy. Not only did traditional sources use the media, but online media and blogs also added to the debate. Writing harsh reviews and opinion pieces about the movie on entertainment blogs and websites strengthened the case. People's comments and answers on these sites often showed how divided people's opinions are. The Fall of Benny Hill: When Humor Goes Too Far, for example, was the title of a post on a popular entertainment blog that looked at the sketch and collected opinions from viewers, some of whom liked it and some didn't. Network response. The network's decision-making process combined internal conversations with public relations. Following the divisive skit show, the network had fierce internal discussions. Executives and producers convened to evaluate the outcry and decide on the best action line. The sketch's content infuriated viewers and critics, sparking intense debates on the network's responsibility to solve the issue. The network responded to the growing public criticism by making several announcements to control the influence and fix the problem. Initially, the network followed the show's established humorous tone and stood by the act, believing it to be a harmless comedy part. The Benny Hill Show has always pushed boundaries. This sketch was no exception, a network official remarked. "We believe artistic expression should be free, and we respect the rendered decisions." Still, the network began to change its position as the criticism grew more intense. The network formally apologized as watchers, sponsors, and advocacy groups put more and more strain on it. The apology showed regret for any transgression and recognized the subject's delicate nature. We acknowledge that the recent sketch did not meet the standards of taste and sensitivity that our viewers expect, the statement said, changed to say. We truly regret any trouble this has caused. We vow to give these problems great thought. Even with the apologies, the show suffered significant reputation damage. Due to continuous internal network discussions about the program's future, The Benny Hill Show was removed from its regular broadcast schedule. This decision was offered as a response to audience comments and a proactive solution. Impact on viewership and sponsorship. The debate significantly affected The Benny Hill Show's viewers, advertisers, and overall appeal. It was clear that the outcry immediately affected the ratings, which went down. Many people watched the show, and it was an excellent one to watch before the discussion. But as the controversial sketch played, the number of viewers started to drop significantly. Along with a drop in watchers, advertising income dropped significantly. Sponsors stopped giving money because they didn't want their companies linked to the issue. Since advertising was a big part of the show's money, this knockoff made it very unlikely that it could stay in business. Advertisers were worried about the bad press and possible brand damage, said someone who works in the network. The main reason for canceling the event was to avoid losing sponsors. In addition to the financial effects, the show eventually lost its appeal to most people. The Benny Hill Show lost its cultural appeal after being praised as a pioneer in sketch humor. The debate has hurt the show's image, making its past successes and contributions to the genre less noticeable. Both viewers and reviewers began to see the show through the lens of controversy, which changed its place in TV history. The Benny Hill Show moved on to a new chapter when the network chose to end it. The cancellation was said to be due to comments from viewers and changing cultural norms, but it was clear that the debate had played a big role in the network's decision. The effects on sponsorship and viewership brought attention to how hard it was for TV shows to handle sensitive topics and keep people interested. Legacy and reflection. The Benny Hill Show's place in history. In the history of TV shows, The Benny Hill Show is one of a kind because it changed comedy forever. When the show ended because of bad reviews, it was a significant change for the show and the whole genre of comedies on TV. This part talks about the show's background and what it means now. It also examines how it affected people after it ended and how Benny Hill's work is understood today. When The Benny Hill Show ended, it made a big difference in the comedy scene on TV. Many people liked the show before the scandal because it had great chase scenes, slapstick jokes, and sarcastic humor. It was very popular and willing to push the rules. It was seen as a pillar of British television. However, the negative reactions to the controversial sketch showed that people are becoming more aware of what is appropriate and tasteful in comedy. Since the show ended, TV comedies have changed to reflect changes in popular attitudes. The debate over The Benny Hill Show made people think about how shows could handle touchy topics more carefully. These changes led to the creation of new comedy shows that dealt with social issues subtly and with more understanding. The rise of alternative comedy and the focus on socially aware humor were responses to the problems that The Benny Hill Show caused. Also, the show's cancellation caused arguments in the business world about how comedy can reflect and change societal standards. The argument about what was on The Benny Hill Show showed how hard it is to balance social duty with artistic freedom. So, aspiring artists and writers were told to think more about dealing with sensitive topics and how their work might affect different groups of people. Even though Benny Hill was controversial, he made many vital contributions to comedy. His influence on sketch humor and unique way of making people laugh has inspired many other comedians. Even though the show's ending gets terrible reviews, Hill's work is still praised for being unique and impacting the field. People in the comedy world still talk about and respect Hill's slapstick humor and memorable characters. Thanks to The Benny Hill Show and its issues, we can examine how comedy on TV has changed in modern times and learn a lot from it. Many people remember the show with a mix of negative and positive feelings. On the one hand, one could praise it for shaping the genre and adding to TV's past. On the other hand, the arguments over some sketches make us think about how important it is for humor to be culturally aware. Things are done with similar material in very different ways now than in the past. The entertainment industry has changed how it handles sensitive topics and become more aware of how comedy affects different groups of people. This shows that pushing limits usually comes from having a more open mind and knowing more about what could happen. As time passes, comedy shows deal with social issues in a way that respects different points of view and doesn't reinforce harmful stereotypes. As more voices appear in comedy, there are more different points of view and a more open-minded approach to humor. This change shows that people are becoming more aware of how important entertainment is for fun and shaping how people talk. That wraps up our look at the infamous scene that ended the Benny Hill Show. This moment marked a pivotal shift in TV history from groundbreaking comedy to controversial conclusions. Don't forget to click on the video popping up on your screen, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more behind-the-scenes stories.